Alright, hello everybody, this is Axter99. In this video I just want to go ahead and kind of demonstrate a new survivor perk idea I had for one of my favorite games the past year and a half since it launched in Dead by Daylight. Now I currently have just over 2,000 hours in the game, mostly as a survivor, but I have been rank 1 killer a couple of times. So I have a idea that I think really should be considered to be implemented into the game by the developers, simply because barbecue and chili, since Leatherface launched, is so, what I would say, overused by killers. And I like the idea of barbecue and chili. I think it, does a good job. Okay, so what we have with barbecue and chili, the perk, is I think this perk was really made to try to, help killers, or help persuade killers to leave the hook and quit hook camping. Because when they hook somebody here, okay, my art is horrible, but when they hook somebody and they got the person hanging here, right, what they do is they get an indicator and they have a range, and I think at level 3 I think it's like 48 meters. So obviously you have a 48 meter circle. That's a horrible circle. But instead of staying here within this range and doing like a lot of killers do and patrol, or set here in camp, or patrol camp really close, it kind of encourages them to leave the hook and look for survivor auras out of this 48 meter range. So they might see an aura here of a guy working on a gen, they might see an aura of another guy over here taking out a totem, and then they might see another aura, this is the first guy hooked or whatever, they might see another aura of a guy running in here for the save. So here they can go, okay, I'm going to get this guy or whatever because he's not that far out. So they head this way and find this guy and take him out and get him on a hook. And now at this point they see this guy's left the generator and he's headed maybe not this way, maybe he's headed this way. So now they can kind of cut him off, take him out. And barbecue and chili is a super powerful perk, and that's why so many killers run it today. Now the counter to barbecue and chili, the only real counter, is when you have that guy placed on your hook, right? Survivors that are working out here on gens or whatever, when they see this guy go down, I mean, they can see the status of their survivor. It shows, the guy down or whatever. As soon as they see that, as long as the killer doesn't take another Leatherface perk called Knockout, they can see the dying states. They know where he's out. So that's why I'd also recommend killers, if you're running barbecue and chili, definitely think about taking Knockout as well, because I'm telling you, Knockout is extremely effective at keeping the survivors confused about where the guy got down, so they don't really know where to head. But if they can see the dying state and you don't have Knockout, obviously the counter for survivors is once they see that dying state, leave whatever you're doing and get within this range, right? Again, horrible range circle, but you get my idea. I mean, it's even, and the hook's in the middle. But once they see that dying state before this guy gets hooked, what these guys are going to do, let's say the range is more like this, but this guy's going to leave and he's going to try to get up within this range and hide behind a rock or whatever, and that way the killer will not see him because he's within the range by the time he hooks. So that is the survivor counter to barbecue and chili. The problem this presents, though, the only counter survivors have, is a lot of killers who use barbecue and chili, once they hook this guy, they know they have the perk barbecue and chili, and then they look out here and they see no auras, or only one auras, and they know they should see 3 or whatever. Then they go sometimes with only 1. Like if they're missing 1 aura, then they know somebody's in here close. And so this leads to killers staying in here looking and camping. So in essence, a perk they made to try to counter camping, in essence, when survivors play against the perk well, it leads to even more camping than ever before. So that is my gripe with barbecue and chili. So I love the perk. I don't think the perk needs to be nerfed. I don't think it needs to go by. I want to keep barbecue and chili. So let's go ahead and take a look here, guys. Let's go ahead and clear my screen here of all this mess because I'm such a scribbler. Hopefully you guys can keep up and, I'm not drawing so horrible that you can't understand what I'm saying. But I do think demonstrating what I'm talking about will help here. So So again, I'm just going to leave this up because we're talking about the Perk barbecue and chili, and what we need is a real counter for survivors to counter this, besides coming into this range and causing even more camping. Because let's face it, the developers did not create barbecue and chili to create more camping. You know they didn't. But in essence, that's what it's led to, especially if survivors play it well and play it effectively so the killer can't see where you're at. So my idea, and I've already made a thread about this, I will post the link to the thread up in the description above. And if you guys like my idea, or you guys want to add anything, or you hate my idea, whatever, please click that link. And on Steam, in the forums, in the suggestions of forums of Dead by Daylight, and go and post your feedback, or give me a +1, or say that you like the idea or whatever. But keep my idea, post something on that thread. That way you keep my idea at the top, and hopefully one of the developers or whatever will see my idea and maybe think about implementing some form of my idea into the game. I made this thread almost a week ago, and the more I've thought about it, the more I like my idea. Alright, so I call the perk deceptive reflection. That is the name of my perk, or we're going to call it DR for short. Okay, so deceptive reflection is my idea, and this is a new survivor perk idea. So it's a perk that survivors can take. Now, if they don't take this perk, obviously it's not going to help them in the way I talk about. You have to have this perk. So what happens with deceptive reflection is you have your hooked victim. A guy gets hooked, right? And let's say that you are already within the range. So here's the range. We're just going to make a dotted line here for the barbecue and chili 48 meter range, or whatever range it is based on their perk. So let's say that you are right here behind a rock, and you're crouched right here within this range, and you're watching the guy get hooked. Well, without deceptive reflection, again, the killer is going to know that somebody's in here. Let's say that you're the only two survivors left. The other two guys are dead. So he hooks this guy. He's looking out here for your aura out here. He doesn't see it. So he knows that you're close. So he's going to start scanning the area, looking for you, and probably find you because he knows you're close. Or he's going to camp. This leads to more camping, like I said, when you counter it effectively. So if you have deceptive reflection, what deceptive reflection is going to do is it's going to mirror your aura. So right now he's not going to see an aura. But if you have deceptive reflection, he's going to see your aura. And the way it's going to work is it's simply going to be a line from wherever the killer's at. So if he's standing here, it's going to be a line here. But if he's standing here, it's going to be a line here. And it's going to be mirrored. So on the other side of the boundary line. So for example, if he's over here, he's going to see your aura reflected over here. It's going to be a bullshit aura, right? If the killer's standing here, it's going to be more over this direction. It's going to be mirrored from whichever direction the killer is. So it's mirrored out here. So even though you're right here, you're inside the aura, now the killer thinks, oh my god, he's out here, right? And if you're closer in, the closer you are, the further he's going to see you out, because again, that's how a mirror works. So now the killer, even though you're right here ready to make the save in this situation, the killer thinks you're way the hell out here. Maybe it's a hillbilly. And so he zooms way the hell out here thinking this is you out here. By that time, you've already made the save. Okay, so another thing I want to say about this perk is once the guy gets hooked, okay, and you have your range and your killer here, standing here, and this guy is behind this rock. You have a survivor here behind this rock. So you have your angle, right? So from the killer's perspective, when he first sees this aura reflected out here. Now the movement, obviously the killer is going to see if the survivor is moving. Again, it's going to be mirrored. So if the survivor is moving this way, then of course the killer is going to see the survivor moving. It's going to be mirrored. So, if the survivor is moving this way, obviously the line is going to be further out here. But the important thing to remember here, if they do add this game, is once this killer sees the aura, all movement needs to be based on the survivor only. So survivor only movement is shown. What I mean by that, and yeah, I know you can't even read that, but whatever. But what I mean by that is the killer, for the 4-second duration or whatever they see the auras for after they hook this guy, the 4 seconds, the movement, this line cannot be, this mirror reflection here can't be based on the killer's movement. So what I mean is a killer, after he hooks this guy, he shouldn't be able to move back and forth just to see if this is a reflection. So if you don't lock this in to only the survivor's movement, the killer would be able to move back and forth really quickly and see this mirrored reflection going back and forth based on his movement and go, aha, it's a mirrored reflection. So that's why I say the aura, once he sees it, it needs to lock in to only the survivor's movement. And if the killer moves back and forth, it's not going to change the aura they see for that 4-second duration. Now, I know a lot of killers are going to be like, oh my god, no way, this is way too OP. This is not really overpowered, especially when you consider the power of barbecue and chili, giving the ability to see up to 3 aura survivors outside of this range. Deceptive reflection only changes 1 aura, yours, and gives him a deception of your aura. I also think that if this perk was implemented, the killer would get really, really good at deciphering, if somebody has deceptive reflection, kind of saying, hey, I don't believe this image is real. This guy probably has deceptive reflection. And if that's the case, so if this killer is right here, let's say that over here the killer knows that there's a whole bunch of rocks and, whatever over here. Or maybe this is the corner of the map. And so the killer knows the map well, and he goes, wait a minute, that's too far out, right? And the killer's right here, and maybe this is outside of the map where this aura is showing up at. And he's going, wait a minute, that's too far out. I know the edge of the map is right there. So now the killer goes, aha, this guy has deceptive reflection showing up out there. The killer's going to get really good at basically knowing, hey, you're right in this area. Whap. So this is why I think deceptive reflection could be an awesome perk, because I think it's going to create some really interesting scenarios and, different kinds of gameplay decisions and strategies and just gameplay. It's going to be fun for people to watch if they're watching a live stream. It's going to be fun for people to play both as killer and as survivor. I think this perk would add a lot to the game, especially as much as barbecue and chili is used. I really like this perk the more I think about it. Now, because of the ability for a killer in this situation I think killers are going to get really good at turning deceptive reflection in a lot of situations into an advantage for them because of the mirrored reflection and these kind of situations and stuff like that. I just think they're going to get really good with experience on, hey, figuring out that you have deceptive reflection and where you're at. So we know that all perks have 3 levels. They have level 1, 2, and 3 of each perk. Deceptive reflection, as I suggested it, is really an on or an off thing. Either you have it or you don't. So to change this up to kind of help make it a better perk for survivors, I think that like level 2 and level 3, maybe level 2 has a 10% chance, and level 3 has a 20% chance, whatever. The developers could figure these odds out. But level 2 and 3 should have a random chance of, instead of this aura showing up at exactly a mirrored angle, now instead of maybe being off the map as well, if you have level 2 or 3, maybe it has this percentage chance of randomizing your aura somewhere else on the map in a random location. So if you have level 2 or 3, you have a 10% chance, say at level 2, of, instead of this aura appearing out here, and the killer knows that's bullshit because that's off the map, now all of a sudden your aura has a 10% chance of appearing in a random location somewhere on the real map. And this would leave killers completely confused as to your actual location, and maybe take off out here thinking that's you out on generator or whatever, because he knows that generator is right in this area, and headed off in this direction. But again, that's not going to happen every time. Remember, it's going to be a small percent chance with level 2 and 3. I just think this perk would create it would add a whole lot of extra dimension to the game, to the games where a killer uses barbecue and chili, and of course where the survivor has this suggested idea for a perk, deceptive reflection, which I like to call it. So Please let me know what you guys think, but down in the comments below, be sure you rate my video. But if you like this idea for deceptive reflection, or if you hate it, whatever whatever your thoughts are, you want to add something to it or whatever, definitely click the link up above and go to that thread and post your thoughts, or post a +1, or post I hate it because this and that. And if you're a killer main and you hate my idea and you think that I'm just a filthy survivor main, whatever, sure, you can put all that, but please put why you don't like this perk idea. Don't just put that you think I'm a troll and a toxic son of a bitch, or whatever you want to say. Put why you really don't think deceptive reflection would be an interesting and good perk for survivors to have. I think that it's a lot better counter to barbecue and chili than certainly running into the range and causing even more camping than we've ever had. So this is Axter99. I want to go ahead and thank you guys for watching. We'll see you in the next video. Peace, everybody.